Hey, good evening, and welcome to another episode of Loving Black with Tori and Terry.
Hey everybody, how you doing? Happy Friday to you.
Yes, Good Friday was last week, and
Yeah.
man, so hey, look, I had this thing I was saying last week. If Jesus could go ahead and get up on that third day, we can too. So you guys got to keep it moving, got to keep pressing, and got to keep on getting up every day, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Friday's my favorite day. It's a day to reflect too of what you accomplished during the week. So, like my husband said, we got to keep it moving and we got to keep rising.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So today's topic, of the show is positive black male influences. We had a power couple on last week, our friends Reggie and Gabby, and two professionals in the business world, and as we all are, we like to hype and pump up those things that are good and black, and
They're positive, just like you're loving black.
Positive. That's right. That's right.
Loving black.
So our guest tonight actually is no different.
Fight.
Yeah. So all I'm gonna say right now is the title of his organization is called The Black Man Can.
What you know about that? Write it down. I'm gonna say it one more time.
The Black Man Can.
Hallelujah.
So we're gonna talk to him in a minute. You know what? We've been following the George Floyd, and I'm gonna say it, murder case, because that's exactly what it was. And over the past couple of weeks, all these witnesses have come up, and I mean, my thing is, as many witnesses there are,
yeah, I'm over it.
Or
verdict, please.
Well, exactly, but don't rush the verdict yet.
Well, and even with them stating, the George Floyd case, this is Derek Chauvin's case.
Yeah.
Exactly. For so many, it happens with these cases, these trials, that they end up talking too much about the victim. It's like they're not even here to speak for themselves.
Well, not just talk about the victim, but they were trying to
try the victim in this case when it's not about him.
Exactly.
Not in that sense.
Exactly. So
he's not standing trial.
And it's crazy because even one of the top ranking and oldest member of Minneapolis Police Department, he actually said not only was what that officer did, I don't even call him an officer, but whatever that guy did, it wasn't part of their policy, and it's a violation.
The racism and all that, it's hidden behind all these excuses, and it's just a lie. We're going to call it what it is. It's a lie. It's a bold-faced lie.
Exactly.
And I'm just over it. I think that, a fair and justice, and that's not fair. So go ahead. Yeah. Let's go ahead and try him. And
exactly.
I wouldn't call
my thing
the jury. I would leave the jury. Yeah,
my thing is, will George Floyd and his family receive the justice that they deserve? We've all seen, the cases over the years, and every year there's about between 1,000 and 1,100 police officer involved killings.
Oh, yeah.
Not necessarily where
Breonna Taylor. Come on now.
Not necessarily that they're responding to an incident, but these are cases where they kill an innocent black person, or a black unarmed person, or whatever the case was. So there's approximately 1,100 of those cases per year, and out of those 1,100 cases, those that are tried, they're often acquitted. So let justice prevail. Let justice prevail in this case. So we're going to continue to pray for George's family. As you guys know, we're in the Houston area, and this is big here. Yeah. Definitely here. It may be in Minneapolis, and the whole thing. Over what some guy, because he didn't recognize an older bill, dollar bill or $20 bill, whatever it was, that caused all of this. There's no excuse. So. Whether George is a martyr for us or, God makes no mistake. So, if this brings us closer together, and
as a people,
and you saw what it did to Black Lives Matter, it really, brought them out of the obscurity, out of the shadows and all. So
more pronounced now.
More pronounced. So look, tonight we have a Morehouse alum in the house. Morehouse. So, definitely,
powerful.
Definitely, one of our daughters, she went to Clark.
Yeah, she graduated from Clark. They might know each other. I forget with him about that. We were talking about that at dinner last night. I said, they might know one another. So we'll have to tap in and see if he does. So we're certainly excited to have him.
Exactly. And as we mentioned, he's with the Black Man Can, and I want to say here, he's decided to devote his career to influence strong male influences, right, in childhood development.
Pay it forward. We talk about it all the time.
So he's applied his passion for business and education toward the goal of creating concrete avenues for youth to develop into positive, outstanding young men and women. So after we come back from the commercial break, we're going to talk to him and we have a good, positive Black discussion.
Yeah, talking about that servanthood and that stewardship. We'll be right back.
Now return to Loving Black with Tori and Terry.
Hey, and welcome back to Loving Black with Tori and Terry. Hey, before the break, my wife and I were making an introduction of a gentleman that has really touched our spirit with his organization, the Black Man Can. He's a visionary leader. He has successfully built a program that effectually takes students, and I like this because he actually said it, from the classroom to the boardroom.
Yeah.
So let's welcome Brandon Frame. What's up, Brandon?
What's happening? Welcome, Brandon, to Loving Black.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor and a privilege, and just thank you for thinking enough of me to be able to come on and share and just talk a little bit about the Black Man Can. Again, I'm just honored and blessed, and I'm appreciative of you and the Lord for making our paths cross.
Yeah.
We're honored just the same.
Exactly.
I got a game. I was telling you I have this game, and it's called Rapid Fire. So, you ready?
I'm ready.
He interferes. Don't just look at me, okay? Just look at me. Okay. Here we go.
I'm going to be quiet this time.
Okay, let's see if you can. Maybe we'll give him a prize. Okay. Apple or Android?
Android.
Saxophone or bass guitar?
Saxophone.
Okay. All-Star NBA or NFL Super Bowl?
All-Star NBA.
Okay. Philanthropy or donor?
Philanthropy.
Okay. Spiritual or religious?
Spiritual.
Advocate or mentorship?
Mentorship.
Okay.
That was almost...
No, I'll talk to you later. Ray or Django?
Say that again?
Ray or Django?
Ray.
Okay.
Yeah, Ray is good.
Red beans and rice or black-eyed peas and rice and gravy?
Red beans and rice.
Okay, and last but not least, Boys to Men or New Edition?
Boys to Men.
All right, you did great. Yes. So that's it. That was it. It's kind of fun. I do it with everybody, and I do my little research, on my guests so that I can go in and just kind of pick the things that I think that kind of apply. So it gives us a peek into who you are as an individual as well to introduce our guests. So thank you.
So speaking of who you are, I gave a very brief introduction, but because of who you are, I want you to tell our viewers who you are and also what is the Black Man Can.
Brandon Frame is a role model, a scholar, and a gentleman, a Renaissance man with a social conscience and a global perspective. The Black Man Can is a nonprofit digital media platform, lifestyle brand focused on creating and amplifying stories of what Black men and boys can do making sure that we educate, inspire, and motivate Black men to reach their goals and show the world how we're showing up in the world.
Now, how do you do that? With and is it just Black men? Because I thought I saw something about men and women.
I would say that we focus. We have an intentional focus on Black men, but we also know that there is not Black men without Black women. So we make sure that we amplify the voices of Black women. We make sure we create that space. We make sure that we acknowledge our privilege, so that we can hear the voices of Black women and girls. And how we do that in terms of just showing, in terms of the work, in terms of Black men, is we have a Building a Better Brother Summit. We have our social media channels. We have different events that we do, King's Roundtable, the My First Tie, and the list goes on of different things that we're just looking to do to make sure that we positively impact the community, but also highlight the positive images and narratives of Black men and boys.
Now, what community? I'm sorry, but what communities are you involved with? I know you're in New York, so are you nationwide? How does this work?
The Building a Better Brother Summit travels all over the country to different cities, working with different municipalities and schools. And we host different events also in different cities. And then our social media reaches about 7-8 million people, across the country in terms of content that we create and amplify.
Wow. How was this birthed? I mean, how did it come about? What was it that inspired this? Was it just you? Was it a group of people? Some frat brothers? What was it?
I attended the Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia, and but when I was there, I between spending time on campus and spending time in East Atlanta, I saw a quote I live by is, once you make an observation, you have an obligation. So I made an observation that Black men and boys need to see positive images of themselves and need to have their stories told. And so therefore I created it, or I had the obligation to create it. And so I did. And so in 2010, I launched a blog, and then it's grown into what it is here 11 years later. But I think that's, when I think about your show and what you both stand for, I think it's important for me to share that when I started The Black Man Can, I started a blog. And so as a blog, you want to get .com, right? .com wasn't available. The only thing that was available was .org. I was a little upset about that, but I think the beauty in that is that God knew what my order steps were going to be. He knew it was going to be a nonprofit and impact, communities across the country. So
He ordered your steps.
So I just wanted to share that with your viewers, because I think it's important to know that, ideas are spiritual children seated by God inside of us. He gives us the tools and places the people around us to manifest those dreams into reality. And that brings us to us being here today.
Yes, those divine appointments. Amen, amen. I'm for it.
I know, right?
For it all the way.
We definitely are. Hey, of course, we were talking about the George Floyd case. Well, I don't want to say George Floyd case, but the situation that's going on right now. And we live in turbulent times, and a lot of these times involve, like we mentioned, the unarmed killing of our Black men and women, right? So with this being prevalent all over social media, in your attempt to show a positive light, what are some of the implicit biases that you run across when doing The Black Man Can, and how do you overcome them?
I think that's a very powerful question, one I don't get asked as often as maybe I could. So I think you mentioned that we live in turbulent times, and I would say, when haven't we lived in turbulent times, right? Yeah. I think that's something to acknowledge as a Black person, as a Black man, as a Black woman, that we've always lived in turbulent times since the moment we stepped foot, since the moment we were brought here to this country, right? And that racial trauma is a very real thing. You had in Europe.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so when you trace it all the way back, it it starts with white on white trauma in European 12th century, 11th century, then you get to, Puritans coming over here, but they took their trauma and then inflicted upon us especially once you create the power construct that is race, right? It's important that we look at it not as a social construct, but as a power construct, because when we look at it in that perspective, it allows you to see the world in a different way, and why people do the things they do, and why the world looks the way it was, or why we live in these turbulent times and have always lived in these turbulent times. So I think that's really important to acknowledge. And then when it comes to the page, I think it's really interesting because we have, closing in on 600,000 followers, and that spans a lot of countries and people and communities, right? Sure. And so what I would say before I even get into different things is that one thing that the page will represent in terms of the comments is that Black people are not monolithic, right? Like you have conservative Black people, you have progressive Black people, you have people who are for certain laws and against certain laws, who are like, when I was posting, I posted stuff, that was pro Biden, and people are like, oh, how could this page, support, Biden, and he was one of the architects of the 93 crime bill, and there's so many different things to unpack. So I think that the page, for me, just reflects that we're not monolithic. I can get into colorism comes up on the page, in terms of I might post a couple and she might be light skinned and he's dark skinned. And then people got something to say about that in the comments. That's a real thing, but that's also something we deal with within our community. But there isn't an ethnicity that doesn't deal with it. Indians deal with it. Latinos deal with it. White people deal with it. So,
as I was talking about, we see things where, you see two pictures of, let's say it may represent the same thing, but the people in the picture are different nationalities. One may be Black, the other may be white.
Interracial. Yeah. People have something to say.
No. That's not what I was going there. But what I was saying is that with the Black person, let's say if he had a bag and had some food in it or something, right? And it was during the time this past summer when we were going through all the riots and things like that. He may have just been coming from the store, but the media will caption it as, he just looted these items from this grocery store. Whereas a white couple or a white person, same caption, same picture rather, with the same loaf of bread or same food sticking out of the bag, they would probably say, oh, he just came from shopping, right?
Those are definitely, we don't perpetuate those
stereotypes.
Those stereotypes on our page. But I think what's more reflective is that you catch that in the comments in terms of what people will say. So exactly. I think that in terms of implicit bias, I'm not saying that you probably could look at our page and, people could come up with different things that, hey, you don't post this or you don't share that. And that's fair. Those are fair critiques. I'm always open to critique and constructive criticism. But I think also the comments would reflect implicit biases of us as a people, as well as the different things that we care about or are important to people. But it then ultimately reflects how that we're not monolithic, and that Black people come and all they believe in different practices. We live in a buffet style democracy. So what that means is hey, I want my plate with the General Tso chicken and the macaroni and cheese, but I don't want the shrimp, And so that's how we live in as a buffet style democracy. Like, I like that policy, but that policy right now, I ain't really with that one. So that's
everyone.
I have a question. So you're in higher education, and one of the things that I was in education, and I pretty much still am. I'm a lifelong learner. What are your thoughts as far as with the direction that you have focused for your education and higher education? How will that correlate to the Black Man Can when you feel that you've reached your pinnacle, of your education?
I think what's interesting with that question, which is a great question, is that, at Morehouse, one of the things that they tell you the first day you get there is that that Morehouse holds a crown above you and challenges you to grow tall enough to wear it. But then you learn that the the crown continues to be raised. So like you ultimately never reach it. So I think there is no maybe pinnacle of where I will land. I'm in a doctoral program to become Dr. Frame. Ultimately, that will allow me to have opportunity to continue to reach the crown that's raised above me, right? And so there's lots of different roles and lots of different roles in the world that can allow me to create tremendous impact. When I think about the roles and responsibilities that I have, I think about impact, I think about influence, and I think about power.
Yeah.
Right? So those are the three things that money is not necessarily an issue. I'm not worried about that. Like, I'm talented, so I know I'm going to make money. I know that my worth and the checks that are going to come my way are going to be large because I'm talented, right? People want to look for talent, but I look for roles and opportunities that will allow for me to have influence, that will allow for me to create change and create impact, and give me power.
Amen. That's just what I wanted to hear, and I knew that was what you were going to say, and I'm loving it. You got that crown. You got that crown at each level. You got that crown.
Hey, Brandon, the three of us have had mentors that really shape and impact who we are, as people. Ongoing, yeah. And what are some of your organization's coaches and or mentors doing to be impactful to our communities?
Absolutely. So what we've done is with the Building a Better Brother Summit, which travels around the country, we've built a mentor network. And at this point, maybe it's about 400 or 500 men who, will be considered a part of the network. And, what we do is when we go to a city or a country, we put the bat signal out and I say, who can make it, right? And these are men that span every walk of life, from politicians to investors to real estate to educators, to also just your regular brother, right? It's important to acknowledge that, like, every Black man has a story, right? Yeah. And every Black man has a story that can be shared with the younger generation, and there's probably at least one person in the room that will relate to his experiences of how he turned his stumbling blocks into stepping stones, right? Mm-hmm. And that's ultimately what we do. If it took me and if it took you 20 steps, then we should not be gatekeepers. We should not hoard information. We should share that information so that it takes somebody else 10. And that's what the mentors bring to the table, and that's what this is all about.
That's awesome.
I love it.
You mentioned the word. You mentioned our stories, right? And when I was doing some research on you, I noticed on your website in the Our Story section, you used a word that we use a lot in our counseling, which is the word intentional, right? And in using that, what intentional message do you want to share with our viewers about being intentional?
Oh man, intentional is I'm gonna kind of paint this like a little bit of a circle, right? So I already mentioned that, ideas are spiritual children seated by God inside of us, right? So I mentioned that, Dr. Benjamin Elijah Mays says, every man and woman was put on this earth to do something unique and something distinctive. If he or she does not do it, it will never be done, right? So we start there, right? So you own that, right? Then you own the idea that your steps are ordered. We already mentioned that too, so I'm not going to delve into. We got steps are ordered. We got ideas of spiritual children. Everybody's put on this earth to do something unique or something distinctive, right? And so when we take all that into account, it's about being intentional about your steps, about your intentions, the things that you want to do, because your steps are ordered. This idea or your purpose. That's what you're supposed to do. If you don't do it, nobody else will do it, right? And he's going to put the people and the tools around you to make that happen. And so, I just wanted to connect those dots to some of the themes that I've been mentioning, in terms of to your question around intention. And if you take those pieces, right, and then if you throw in a little bit more scripture there, we could throw in faith without work is dead. We can walk by faith and not by sight, right? And when you put that together, that's literally like a step-by-step process of being intentional to the goals and the dreams and the things that you will accomplish.
And he's speaking our language, because we're using all the words, we're using all these buzzwords. That's what we use. I love it.
Exactly. So we, like I said, we talk to our people that we counsel, on a daily basis. We talk to them about being intentional in their marriages and their relationships. We also let them know that they have to be intentional in being a family because their marriage is their children's classroom, right? So we definitely, we appreciate, your, I'm gonna use your last name, your framework around it. Yeah. Hey, can you tell our viewers, brother, what are some future activities of the Black Man Can that they can either help with, donate, and even participate? And after our show, I want to talk to you about some things that a couple of men's organizations that I'm involved in that maybe we can kind of correlate and collaborate a couple of things, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we're, the world is slowly opening back up. I don't think that we'll be still doing any in-person things. Maybe some of our events like the King's Roundtable, potentially because they're smaller events, but our Building a Better Brother Summits operate virtually. We're in some contract talks now to do some more virtual conferences. So I'm excited about the prospects to do that. We have the Black Man Can store. When you buy stuff in our store, it goes back to support the nonprofit organization. That's one reason why we created the store, so that it can, so that we can generate revenue to do the work in the community that we want to do. And we have some new products that are going to be coming on the way as well. I can't announce it right now just because it's still in design, but when it's ready, I'll be coming to both of you to talk about how we can get it out there and to the Houston community and to the rest of the world, those networks. Because I think it'll be another impactful tool coming out of the Black Man Can. So I'm excited about that. And that's kind of it. I mean, I think it is COVID. So some of the things that we will be doing on a larger scale are just a little bit halted, and that's okay because at this time, one of these things in terms of the pandemic, for Black men and Black women, but we're the Black Man Can. So for Black men, it gave us the time to think, right? Like I think as Black men, we don't always get that time to just sit and think, right? And that's what, when we get a chance to do that, we really get to strategize and think about our next steps. So I think that the pandemic has allowed me the opportunity to sit and think, make some decisions, so that way, as we come out of the pandemic, we can flourish.
Yeah, it's Further Faster. Yeah, good friend from my old church, Miles Minnick. Shout out to you. #Further Faster. And that's just what it did. We're so busy as a people grinding and the hustle. So you're right. But there wasn't enough time to think. We didn't have that downtime. Where this, like you said, re-strategize. And it's like, let's shift. Yeah. Let's take this time to shift. Yeah. That's awesome.
Hey, we're going to break for commercial, but when we come back, we're going to have read our letter of the day. So can you hang around and talk with us about that?
Yeah, we'll all work with it.
Okay, cool.
We'll be right back.
Lovin' Black with Tori and Terry is officially live across Apple Music, Spotify, and iHeartMedia platforms. At Lovin' Black with Tori and Terry, we cultivate positive love conversations, which means that your love is always in the positive. Join us as we discuss marriage, relationships, and singles topics, as well as answer your letters on air. To be a guest on the show, advertise, sponsor, or submit a topic, email us at loveandblack1@gmail.com. Find us by typing Love in Black with Tori and Terry in your preferred media platform. We now return to Love in Black with Tori and Terry.
Hey, and welcome back. Hey, we were talking with Brandon Frame. He's still on the screen now.
Amazing.
But great interview, man. And I wish we had a lot more time to ask you a lot more questions, but we can do that offline anyway.
We'll just have him back. That's how we saw that. We'll just have him
exactly.
back. Yes.
Exactly.
And in person.
So you guys know what time it is. It's time for our letter of the day. And we have one, and this is there's a couple of words in here you guys may be offended with, but it's okay because y'all know how we do.
Oh, Lord. I can't stop him, y'all. When he get on the roll, I can't stop him.
It's not me. I'm just reading the letter. That's all. So anyway, dear Tori and Terry, my husband and I have been married for 3 years, and although we do not have any children together, he has custody of his 2 daughters, aged 12 and 17. The 12-year-old is a dream, but the 17-year-old is very disrespectful to her father, me, and anyone else who crosses her path. Her mother is a toxic influence, and to be honest, I don't want her in our home. She has cursed my husband on several occasions and even went as far to say, I see why my mom doesn't like your sorry ass. Me personally, she would have been tasting toes from my foot going up her sorry ass. How can I get my husband to stand up to her and demand his respect? He just says that she's his daughter and she is who she is. What she is a spoiled brat and about to get her wish of staying with her bio mom. How can I get him to handle this situation before I do? Woo!
Okay.
Now look at Brandon's face.
I got something to say. Okay, wait. As a mama, and I can say that because we're a blended family. So I got a little something to say. Y'all want me to go first?
Go ahead.
There's a couple of things to consider here because I did the math. They've been married 3 years. So we have to count for about a good year and a half or so for them to dig each other unless she was hanging around kind of on the side. I don't know. But that puts that child about 14 or 13 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Smack dab in that adolescence. Smack dab in it. So not knowing what the situation was at home. She's the oldest child. So that means she's probably saw a lot more of the arguing because her and her sister are 5 years apart.
Yeah.
So she was really taken in. Kids are like a sponge. They're soaking stuff up. They're hearing the dialogue in the house, whether it was, we don't know how violent it was, how ugly it was. She was in that environment and she was sucking it up. And so, case in point, what you get from this, because it was negative. What did they do to talk to her to let her know that our divorce is not your fault? This has nothing to do with you. Mm-hmm. What was that dialogue, as well as, there's so many things to consider here, even onboarding this new woman.
Yeah.
What was the onboarding process? What is her relationship like with her little sister?
Mm-hmm.
It's like now the baby comes in and she's the sweet one, apparently. She's the dream.
Yeah.
So she's getting all the attention.
Or a dream.
Yeah, well, but you get what I'm saying. So with all that being said, there's so much to consider. She is probably fearful. 17. She going to college? What's her plan? What does she focus on?
Now that she's being disrespectful to everyone.
She just may be, just a badass. You have bad girls and stuff like that, but that's another thing. What was she watching? Who's she hanging with? What's she listening to? Mm-hmm. There's so much to consider here. And, she saw a lot.
Yeah.
Anybody discuss the goals? Is there any daddy-daughter time with just her?
Yeah.
Is there any of that? And does she have the option to go back to her mother's? We don't know.
I don't know. Apparently she wants to, though.
Well,
Brandon, what do you think about this?
This is such an interesting scenario. I think, one, there needs to be a conversation, the dad-daughter conversation, like a real sit down. I don't know if that happens at the kitchen table. Let's go to dinner. Let's go to talk. Like, what's wrong? Why do you treat me this way? What is your feeling, right? And then if it's ultimately that she does want to live with her mom, and all people have. I'm one of 5, right, of my mom's kids, and my teenage years were completely different than my brother's teenage years, even though we grew up in the same house, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there may be this time where like she needs to go live with her mom, right? And let that happen. However, we don't know much about the mom. We don't know what type of situation it is. But if that's what she wants, you know what? Maybe that might be what's best, even after the conversation. I think there is a conversation that needs to be had. He can continue to talk to his new wife in terms of their relationship. I don't know if there's much of a space for her to talk to the daughter just yet, because it doesn't seem like there's a good relationship there, or for whatever reason, right? Because that might be part of it, right? We don't, there's obviously a little more, but I think there's definitely a conversation between the father and the daughter, ultimately coming to a decision on next steps. We make that decision, and then we see where things go from there. But there definitely needs to be a conversation, and then there needs to be actionable items afterwards, saying, okay, this is what it's going to be if you're going to live in this house, and these are the rules, and this is how it's going to be, right? And then if not, this is where you go. And on the other things, if you do stay here, these are the rules. But you're more than welcome at 18 to move out and get your own job and figure this thing out on yourself. I'm assuming as a dad, he said, I love you. You are my daughter. I want to give you the world. I want you to have everything, but I won't be treated. I will not be disrespected
Exactly.
in my house. And so there's a conversation to be had there. And again, an action items afterwards.
That's awesome.
You know,
that's exactly right. He hit every point. Every point hit the nail on the head.
You know, in addition to what both of you guys have said, I mean, there's so much more in this as well. So we're looking at a 17-year-old disrespectful girl. We're looking at a toxic relationship between the exes, right? There is a lot of pain with the girl, and I really think that she saw a lot of dysfunction in the house. That's why she feels that she's entitled to, or well, I won't say feels that she's entitled to talk to her father in this manner because her mother did.
Yeah, and you know what? Not only that, I was just thinking, you guys, I bet you any money that her mother, because of, remember I said she's kind of adolescent, so who's to say that the mother was talking to her about something, because she might use her as her confidant and share too much with her for her to say, that's why my mom doesn't like your sorry.
Yeah. Which you know, we always talk to couples about not discussing things of the other parent, the bio parent, around the children or in their vicinity or anything, because they can hear these things and they pick up on it, especially if the girl doesn't want to be in this particular environment. So when I said there was a lot to unpack, there is, one with the disrespect. I mean, her father should have taught her, and her mother should have taught her, but something is going on with that mother, because in the United States, it's kind of hard for the father to get full custody, and he's had full custody. So I don't know if he doesn't want to go upside her head, so to speak, just because he doesn't want to lose that, or or the daughter may go back to the mother and say, I mean, there's unwritten dynamics there that we don't know.
Yes, and
then
the young lady have an option.
For her to feel comfortable enough to say, that's why my mom doesn't like your sorry ass. There's a lot of talk going on that doesn't involve. There's a lot of adult conversation going on that doesn't involve a child. I mean, this child isn't in a child's place. The father's being passive aggressive. I mean, I know that that he has to be saying something, but father, if you're listening, what you need, or any father for that matter, because we're talking to, we're responding to this letter, but we're talking to 1,000 or so people with this same situation. And the thing is, you have to stop it. You have to nip this in the bud. First of all, you guys are a blended family, even though this other woman doesn't have any children, or she doesn't mention it, but you're still a blended family. So there's expectations, there's boundaries. There's so many boundaries that have been crossed here. Absolutely. That hasn't even been addressed, by this way. The lady that wrote the letter, she's on her. I mean, what Robin Harris say, pissed off to the highest point of festivity. She's at that level where she wants to just do something with this girl, and she doesn't care if this girl stays or goes, but she's not having it in her home, and I don't blame her.
It's toxic.
It's very toxic.
You guys, everybody, pretty much knows that we are counselors by day and media personalities by night, sometimes by day too. But I do want to put this out there. This show is Love in Black, and that is putting your love in the positive, just like your finances. You want them in the red, you want them in the black. Yeah. And so this is the opportune time to, for those of you that are experiencing this, know someone who's experiencing this, to have a talk with them and say, listen, if this is out of your hands and you don't have the tools, you don't even know where to start with this, get some help. Yeah. Call in a third party, a mediator. My husband and I are counselors. We, with that therapist, we don't just counsel married couples. It's marriage and relationship. That's not just a romantic relationship. That is mother-in-laws and daughter-in-laws. That's mothers and daughters. That's fathers and sons. We're here. And if you can't do it by yourself, because I hate to see you attempt to do it and mess it up even worse, because this is dire. And especially this child's hurting. It's obvious. There's a lot of pain there, and it needs to be addressed for both of you. Yeah. So, get the help that you need if you can't do it on your own.
All right. I assume that's your closing argument?
That is my closing.
Brandon, you got any closing arguments on this, or even anything that you mentioned earlier?
So this is my last remark. We're closing out from here.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll share this. It's a story I always like to tell sometimes. It'd probably be better if I was in person, but I'm gonna tell it now, and then when we do it again, maybe I'll say it again. But if you have you ever for both of you ever had 7-Up?
Yeah.
Right. It's called 7-Up because it took them 7 different formulas before they got all the right chemicals together to make 7-Up that we drink today. Have you ever used WD-49? I mean WD-40.
Yeah.
It's called WD-40 because it stands for water displacement perfected on the 40th try, right? So it took them 40 times before they made WD-40, right? Have you ever used 409 in your house?
Yeah.
It's called 409. It's called 409 because it took them 409 times before they got all the chemicals right to make 409. So for everybody listening, for your viewers, everybody who listens to this, your dreams, your goals, the things that you're working on, the issues that you may have at home, everything that you want. It may take 7 times, it may take 40 times, and it might just take 409 times. But all those products have made over $1 billion, right? And we can all think of something that on the second time we quit. But if we're faithful, right? If we persevere, if we're consistent, like I said, it might take 70 times, it might take 40 times, it might take 409 times, but there's $1 billion ideas, $1 billion dreams, and $1 billion that can be had when we stay the course and follow through on things that the ideas that we have.
Yeah, Brandon, 2 things about what you said. One, there's a old saying that there are $1 million dreams and stuff laid out in the cemetery all over the world. People that didn't fulfill their dreams or had an idea but just didn't do anything with it, right? I think you mentioned earlier at the beginning of the show how God has given us all these talents, all these things to do, but it's up to us to move on and be intentional about it. And then the second one I wanted to add to that is you may want to add Thomas Edison to that list there. Remember he was to have failed over 1,000 times or so in trying to get I don't know if it was either the light bulb or I think it was the light bulb. So or the electric plant, whatever it was over 1,000 times he failed, but he didn't look at it that way. He looked at it as, hey, this is 1,000 times that I perfected I perfected this. So that's how you have to look at it. And as far as my closing arguments, Brandon, again, because we are mentors in the sense of what we do and things like that in counseling, as well as having our media platforms. Definitely want to thank you for coming on and explaining who and what you do. Very admirable. I mean, like I said, you really touched our spirit when we read and found you initially. So keep up the good work, man, and we definitely want to be a part of whatever the Black Man Can.
We will come together and break bread. Yes, we will.
Yeah.
Awesome. I look forward to it.
And with the lady that wrote the letter here, man, I am so sorry that you're going through this, but you and your husband, you have to be on the same accord. You have to work together in order to get these children on the same page. Because eventually, that 12-year-old dream, she's going to, catch some of that bad seed or catch some of that.
Yeah, it's toxic. It's already
toxicity that's just already there. And she's going to think it's okay if you guys aren't doing anything about it. So remember that. And to tag along with what I should have said earlier, if you guys have an opportunity to mentor anyone, take that opportunity because you never know what impact you're going to have in not just a child's life, but grown-ups have, I'm talking to children. Adults have adult mentors as well. Yeah. So keep that in mind. And we had a great show today. Brandon, one more thing, and we're going to put it on the screen as well, but if you can just tell our viewers where they can, again, like I said, donate, participate, or even find out more about your organization. Can you do that, please?
Yeah, you can come to www.theblackmancan.com. For everybody that listens to this, I'm giving out a discount code right now for you to shop on our store. #King 10, hashtag King10. You can use that when you check out. It's 15% off your purchase of whatever you buy in the store. And again, blackmancan.com. If you want to donate to the organization, that's the blackmancan.org. Again, either way, it supports the work that we're doing in communities. And I appreciate the opportunity again to be here to share with you and to build community with you. And I look forward to maintaining it over time.
Definitely. Amen on that. Hey guys, again, we love you guys for always tuning in. We love the comments and thanks for the support. So we will be back on air next Friday night with another special guest. And I always say same black time, same black channel. Go ahead, man.
Have a wonderful weekend. We love you guys. Make love, not war. See you later. Bye.
Bye.